Welcome to The Planet Forward with Preetha. Conversations for a greener future. The place where we ignite discussions and uncover innovations driving us towards sustainability. Every episode, join your host Preetha as we explore the stories, ideas, and pioneers making a real difference in our world. Get ready to be inspired, learn, and be a part of the change that propels us forward to a greener tomorrow.
Welcome to Planet Forward with Preetha, Conversations for a Greener Future. Today, we have the privilege of speaking with Mala Doreswamy, a distinguished leader whose career spans over 3 decades in the convention, hospitality, tourism, exhibition, marketing, and sales industry. Mala's journey is one of the dedication, strategic insight, and transformative leadership. As the CEO, with a core responsibility for leading the development of our company's short and long term strategy, Mala has demonstrated an exceptional ability to navigate complex business landscapes. Her experience ranges from international marketing to managing major events and exhibitions, all underpinned by a deep commitment to quality and excellence. Mala was nominated as one of the top 40 women in mines in Africa in 2015 and has been awarded the South African Association of Conference Industry Fellowship Award. Her leadership was instrumental in establishing the Durban International Convention Center as a beacon of excellence, earning it a five-star status and recognition as the leading convention center in Africa for 16 consecutive years. Known for her philosophy, do what you love and you will never have to work a day in your life, and inspired by the mantra, be the change you want to see in the world, Mala embodies the essence of impactful leadership. She's also celebrated for her ability to think globally and act locally, ensuring that her work resonates on both an international and community level. Mala, it's an honor to have you on the show. Your vast experience and profound insights into building high performance teams and fostering global brand awareness are incredibly inspiring. We are eager to delve into your journey and learn how you've navigated the challenges and opportunities of the MICE industry and how you can continue to inspire and mentor the next generation of leaders. Mala, I'm so happy to have you on my podcast. Welcome to the show.
Good day, Preetha, and thank you so much for the opportunity to be on the show. And to all listening, I'm really honored to be here today. Thank you so much. Really looking forward to having meaningful conversations with you.
Thank you, Mala. So, the first question I have for you is something very interesting. Could you share the journey that led you to become a leading figure in the convention, hospitality, tourism, exhibition, marketing, and sales industry?
Thank you so much for your question and the opportunity once again. This journey started over 34 years ago in South Africa. And it was my passion for the hospitality industry. One of my specializations was handling major large events, United Nation level events.
Wow.
And I think that's what excited me about the opportunity to handle complex situations, being able to understand the economic sectors, and working in a large venue like the Durban ICC. I've also worked at Sun City, which handled some of the major events, and now in Malaysia, handling major conferences and exhibitions. It was being involved in things like the UN COP17 conference, from
Wow.
planning to bidding, planning how the city would be managed and conferences would be handled, how you would handle crowds coming into the city, city logistics, the World Economic Forum Africa, World Racism Conference, the Sun City Golf Challenge, many concerts like Maroon 5,
Wow.
personally escorting Michael Jackson on his tour of Sun City in the early days, and Defense Services Asia Expo, which is currently the home expo in Malaysia. So it's the largest defense service show in Asia. So these are some of the events that really have given me the exposure and the platform to be exposed to the world. And I think it's my passion for this industry to be the change I want to see in the world, and look at how can I contribute on a daily basis to people's lives, empower my staff in what I do, And it's the perseverance to succeed. I think with all of us being on this journey in the hospitality industry, I think we know it hasn't been the easiest journey. And it's, COVID-19 taught us many lessons
Many lessons.
of being shut down for 2 years, but it's perseverance that has got us through this journey and making sure that everyone stays excited, because it's that service culture that really excites us and makes us want to do more and really innovate about what we're doing.
Wow. So, I was just thinking in my mind when you're talking about all the amazing events that you've handled all over the world, such important dignitaries you've handled. We, as common man, when we come to such big conventions, we don't understand the level of work and the thorough planning which goes behind the scenes to get that done so meticulously. So when you're just saying, I'm just thinking through it, that's months and months of preparation that you do in order to have that all orchestrated so well, seemingly like a well-oiled machine. There's so much of work that takes place at a larger scale. Oh my God, it's amazing just to listen to you. I'm sure, I'm going to be really inspired just listening to you, the amount of work which goes in, and, like you said, your perseverance is what it takes you here today. So just
Absolutely. I think it's a lot about teamwork that makes this possible. Nothing can be achieved on our own.
absolutely. And, and that too, great leadership also, right? Having a leader like that, like you, to guide them, to show them the right way also helps a lot. So having the right team and the right leader, it's like a perfect match, I would say.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
I think my famous line would be coming from Africa, it's Ubuntu. We are because of each other and those who've come before us.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Oh, I'm going to caption it when I publish this podcast. It's absolutely true. Oh my God, that's simply amazing. So the second question I have is like your life philosophy. Do what you love and you will never have to work a day in your life is incredibly inspiring. How has this philosophy guided your career and decision making?
This is a verse I picked up by Confucius, and it was in the early days of starting my career and trying to put what am I going to put on my CV and make sure it's a philosophy I live by. And this is the very first verse I picked up and put it on my CV. And that was my commitment that I would make sure I find a job or a purpose, should I say, being able to serve my passion with purpose is what would become my job.
Wow.
So that, I'd never have to call it a job. I never wanted to be boring, but really find joy in what I do. And I think that's what really serves me and reminds me that, the hospitality industry has many long hours. There's lots of challenges, meticulous planning. It's military style work that you have to go through to make sure that the experience you created is felt by everyone. And your passion, when you do anything, people feel it. It's about energy levels. And I think that's
Yes.
what this industry is about, is that you cannot fake this. You either love what you do and people are going to feel it and get excited about it. And I think that's my daily reminder that whatever I do, I've got to make sure that even though the time is limited, whether it's time in my job, my personal time, my time with the children, I've got to make sure that it counts and that it serves a greater purpose. And I think simple things like your inner spiritual energy, the mind over matter, abundant thinking in what you
Yes.
do is what reminds you that everything you're experiencing in life, there's a reason to it. So whether it's good, there's an opportunity, whether it was a bad day, something challenged you, you've got to pick up the nuggets from that to think, there's a reason. I'm either not being strong enough in what I'm doing, so I'm being taught a lesson. So let's pick up from those challenges and learn and grow from it. So I think that's some of the things that have really helped me progress on this journey. And every day I go through these challenges, and I think it's growing up on things like the Divine Life Society, the Sai Balvi class. It was little childhood things that you learned that helps you on your everyday journey. And I think every one of us has to remember that, whether it's the sustainability efforts we're making, it's not about, picking this up and trying to make effort out of it, but rather looking at how do I make this a part of my everyday life in
Everyday life.
every practice so that it becomes my way of life,
Oh,
whether it's my
madam.
job or how I live my life. I think when I look at it, I thought the important thing for me was to align my career with my personal and my professional goals.
That's amazing. I'm just reflecting on what you just said. whatever we are taught, our values, what we are taught when we are growing up, makes a ton of difference, because that those are the values we take with us throughout our life. And told about the spiritual aspect, right? It's a attitude of gratitude. Whatever happens
Absolutely.
is it's for a right reasons. When something good, great happens, it's with a lot of gratitude. You say thank you. And the not so great experience is also a way of saying thank you, because we learned a very important lesson out of it, which we may not have learned otherwise. So it's the way we look in. And you also spoke about the abundance mindset, right? You can always look at the things which are not working well. That is one way to look at it. But you can also look at life in a way that there are so many, plenty of things which is happening around us, which is happening fantastic. So why not just focus on that? So I guess it's the way you look at life, right? I love the way you said, I think that has been your mantra, especially the kind of work that you have. It's not like a regular 9 to 5 job that you can just shut off and go home. You are expected to work around the clock, unless you have this
Absolutely.
attitude where you're simply enjoying everything you're doing every single day, and waking up to a day where you're like, oh, I'm not going to work. You're actually doing it, something which is part of your life. I guess that makes a ton of difference. Oh my God, it's amazing what you just said.
I think it's about taking a very practical and sustainable approach. It's about getting out of your bed every morning and being excited about life and wanting to go forward and do amazing things. And I think you need to have that attitude, and there's no boring day or bad day. It's got
Yes,
to excite you from. And I know some people might think, oh, that's being too overly ambitious or being really positive, but it's just being practical to what you do, and making sure that you can take something out of every day. But I think most importantly, that you can impact one life per day. And I think if that's
absolutely.
your approach in what you do, and it's one person per day, that's good enough.
That's good enough. That's all. We don't need to make a huge impact on, like, millions of people on a day, but one person is happy that day just because of your good deed. That's all it takes, right? That's
Absolutely.
amazing. So I think that's a perfect segue to the next one I have. So, as someone who has been instrumental in building global reputations and securing major events, what key factors do you consider when pitching to international markets?
I think there's so much that goes into this. And I think the important thing for me is cultural understanding and offering authentic experiences, really listening to your clients, doing enough research before you go into these pitching sessions. The market research, understanding the economic sectors of the country you're in and the countries you are bidding against. When you look at these various events, you've got to have really clear value propositions, highlight the benefits, address your pain points, and know the competitors. Just before I go through the rest of the points, I think when you look at these pitching, for example, when I pitched for the World Chess Conference for South Africa, you need to understand from a country point, what do you want to benefit for the country? And for us, it was the grassroots levels, the community, the strategic thinking, improving the mathematics levels at school, the STEMs. So when you bid, you actually gather the community to help you to bid for that, to understand what is the country going to achieve? Because when you're selling that value proposition to the world, they have an understanding that there's going to be a legacy bringing an event in, and what will it do? So it's understanding these little things when you do your pitching. You're adapting your content and your authenticity, engaging at a much deeper level when you go into these events, building strong partnership and collaboration, your networks. Collaboration is key because you're not just collaborating with your key stakeholders. You're collaborating with the community, engaging your staff, as well as the event that's coming in. They need to have an understanding, beside the networks, the logistics, the planning that's going to go in. How else can there be investment brought into a country? How can universities benefit? How is this going to be improving the knowledge economy? So you've got to look at it holistically. So there's adaptability, flexibility, and talking to a lot more people. It's not just bidding and pitching for your venue. So I think when we go out and we pitch, you always pitch for your country first,
Yes.
then your city, then the venue. So that's the order of pitching for business, and engaging at a much higher level.
Wow, I am really feeling like I'm sitting at a university classroom and listening to a lecture, because I'm learning so much today. Because this is not something I have more knowledge about, but I can literally see you, planning for an event, how much you take into account the homework that needs to be done. You spoke about looking at the economics of it. That's more important,
Yeah.
and then you're looking at it. What does it bring for the country, and then you're looking at the event, so you're like going hierarchy level to see what is a value proposition for each of these elements, and then putting this into a good package and then going and bidding. It takes lots and lots of um, you know uh, minute details that needs to be taken into consideration. You cannot just miss the smallest details there, because that's actually going to make a ton of difference there.
It's very competitive when you're bidding against other countries. You
Yeah,
cannot think you're just the best. It's not just about putting money on the table, but simple things like understanding what is your sustainability efforts as a country, a city, and a venue. What are your competitors offering, and how are you going to make a difference? So,
difference.
very important, really studying the minute detail of each sector, whether you're bidding for the World Cancer Conference, whether it's COP17, it's one of the United Nations events. Everybody wants to understand your legacy program and how is it going to be impacting. So very important to really engage at all levels so that you are getting the support and the input required to make that difference and make it an impactful submission.
Wow, amazing, amazing. I can just imagine the amount of work that goes behind even planning such an event every single time. So I'm just moving to the next question. I think that's also
No
in
problem.
relation to what you just mentioned earlier. So your role in achieving numerous accolades for the Durban International Convention Center highlights your commitment to excellence. What challenges did you face in maintaining such high standards, and how did you overcome them?
Thank you for another interesting question. So I'm going to focus a little bit on, between the Durban ICC and MyTech, because I think there were various challenges that I could possibly share. And I think the importance of both these starts with being able to lead by example. I don't think we should be sitting on the hierarchy that I'm too high and everyone else does the work. You've really got to understand what is going on the floor, what are your staff jobs entail, and how do you make sure you understand the challenges so that you can either provide solutions, help them come up with the solutions, but make sure that they have the right tools to do the job. I think simple things like making sure that the policies and procedures are in order for a venue, making sure that you're engaging city logistics to make sure you can do these events. When I look back to the Durban ICC, I think it was really interesting that a venue was built as being the largest venue in Africa. But when the city put a bid together to build that center, for example, there was also a sustainability effort put in where the contractors, for example, had to build a smaller community center as part of their effort
Okay, giving back to the
to make sure
community.
to back to the community. So when you look at it, it was talent being developed, not just at the main contractor, but having subcontractors develop. Going back to your question of numerous accolades for Durban ICC and MyTech, this was really developing talent. That was the biggest challenge, whether it started off in South Africa or Malaysia. You had to develop talent, develop people with the passion for the industry to make sure you could deliver at a world-class level. Also making sure that we set the same standards. So we belong to associations around the world as convention centers to make sure that our policies, our practices are of world-class standards. So how do you implement that to make sure that every single member of your staff is singing off the same hymn sheet? That we really, it doesn't matter whether you go to Durban, you go to Malaysia, you go to Canada, you go to anywhere in the US, that the standard is still the same when it comes to international venues. And I think that was my key focus, is making sure that the operational standards were strong, my staff were motivated and believed in the same dream that I have to make sure we remain a world-class venue. So I think for me, empowering and mentoring my staff, making sure that I guide them along the way, And if they have challenges, making sure that they are first challenged to find the solution before we are providing those solutions. If I look to MyTech, it's Malaysia's leading venue as well as the world's leading venue in Asia. So
Wow.
this for us was a proud moment coming out of COVID-19. We started off post COVID-19 with 5, then 25 staff rebuilding this industry, where a lot of talent decided to move out of the industry, being the hospitality industry, because people were scared. Do I want to go back into the
Back
conference
into
industry,
yeah.
or do I want to go into gig economy, or do I want to go into careers that are more stronger in the industry, have more stable jobs? So for us, this is the service industry. People want to constantly travel the world, host conferences, host exhibitions. How do we go back to the universities and especially to parents who are a lot more scared about their children going into industry, and create that excitement that this industry is never going to be a dying industry. It's constantly innovating, constantly moving to the next level. And we all love to travel. I think when you look at networking, I've met you at the RISE conference many years,
Yes.
a year ago. And that's where you meet new people, innovations are created, universities around the world rely on you, traveling the world, and that's where your knowledge grows. So I think
Absolutely.
it's an industry to make sure that we keep it alive, we constantly evolve, and it's about getting to sensory experiences, making sure that we are constantly looking at what does the client want, what is the customer experience, understanding the journey that people want to be on, and how do we put a quality offering there that becomes unforgettable.
Oh my God.
Whether you're coming to Malaysia or you're going to the Himalayas, it's business events, it's leisure travel. It's something that we constantly have to make people excited about.
Listening to your entire answer for this question, one thing is like it's standing out for me is your leadership style. That is amazing. That's something I really, really loved listening to you when you're talking about empowering your staff. That is so important. And also making sure that they are also taught to be problem solvers versus just followers. That's very, very important because you have to teach them how to fish so that they become stronger and eventually they become leaders in this industry as well. That shows your leadership style. And then more importantly, during COVID, when you said, when things were not right and you come back and you're just motivating them and you're reassuring them it's all going to be fine, it's okay, it's just we had a temporary glitch, we are just going to make it, don't worry about it. And you made it as one of the leading centers in Malaysia and all of Asia. That speaks volumes about your leadership. So you're practicing what you preach, or you're just telling them trust me, we're going to be fine. And your leadership shows that you've done an amazing job. And like what you said, networking is everything in this industry. Yeah, in this world everything is about networking. And if these kind of conventions don't happen, you and I would not have met a year ago. So
Absolutely.
right, so these conventions are so important. People, like you said, are very interested to travel all over the world to learn a lot about the different businesses, propositions which are out there in the world. Unless you go out there and meet people, you never know what's happening in the other side of the world. So, and there's a huge industry who's behind the scenes, doing so much of work to enable all this, enable people like you and I to come together. So many things are happening. We speak about conventions, we speak about World Economic Forum meetings, which are happening on an annual basis in Davos. But then I'm sure that the planning goes at least like 9 or 10 months beforehand to make it work so meticulously on the date. Kudos to all you guys who's taking this as their life purpose and making sure that all your hard work is being enjoyed by people like me coming from different parts of the world. So thank you. Actually, I really need to say
Uh,
thank you to all of you for that. But
it's our pleasure, and it's what we love doing. It's what makes us get up every morning. But another interesting one was I think while we're on this topic, was just back to COVID-19. MyTech ran one of the largest vaccination centers in Malaysia, handling 13,500 people per day. So from being a standard center that offered conventions and exhibitions, we turned into a vaccination center, which was a brand new experience for our team. But it
Wow.
was the excitement of every one of these staff. There was no title. Everyone came in at the same level, and you knew you had to serve. Because we specialized in serving people that were 60 and above, it meant senior citizens. And we wanted to give them a world-class experience of having a vaccination because this was the scariest experience for them. They
Yes.
didn't have their children around. They had to figure out how to leave their homes safely, get to the center, get onto the platforms the apps that you had to get your vaccination. So for us was making sure we planned this journey, from the food the doctors were getting. It was 18 hours a day. It was long hours, and you had minimal services available. So for us, that was one of the lessons of making sure we were really passionate about what we were doing, but making sure even through this journey, which was not the easiest for everyone, they left with a smile knowing I enjoyed the experience. And it took an entire community coming together for whether we had musicians, playing music for them. You had companies supplying, test products like whether it was juices and food, that it really made the experience great. So I think
Wow.
that's what makes you remember that this industry is really about service. While there's sustainability, we made every effort to make sure it was a sustainable journey from, the communities we approached. I think this is what excites us in this
It's
industry.
amazing. What an amazing story that is. Amazing. So the next question I have for you, Mala, is the MICE industry is known for its dynamic nature. How do you stay ahead of industry trends, and what innovations do you foresee shaping the future of conventions and exhibitions?
I think we kind of went through this in some of the questions, but I think the key to this is networking. That's what makes you stay ahead. It's attending these international and local events so that you can understand what are the latest trends going on around the world, what are the local communities wanting, listening to people, keeping track of technological advancements,
Mm-hmm.
and continuous learning. I personally believe in the Kaizen strategy of
Yes.
continuously learning,
Learning.
evolving, and you never know enough about what is going on.
Always be a lifelong student. I always consider myself as a
Absolutely.
lifelong student. I still feel that I have not even touched the tip of the iceberg. There's so much out there to learn, and it helps us stay young at heart always, because we feel that there's so much to learn.
Definitely. And I think, there's so much going on, and we really need to constantly evolve on a daily basis. There's hybrid events now, so you don't have to travel if you don't want to travel. You can link
Yeah.
online. With that being said, we also need to understand the power of AI. How do we make sure that the content remains relevant and that we can have this dual process running so that a person attending the event has a good experience, but those online having just as good
Good as
an experience and excited about being there. Our sustainable practices that are purpose driven, that, we're not here to just tick the box, but how do we get each and every of our clients involved in our journey, that any event coming through looks forward to the legacy they're going to leave in your country as well as the associations that they belong to. It's important for us to make sure that we're able to get through on this journey. Focusing on the personal attendee journey is very important. The customer experience is super important because if you focus on your customer journey, that ensures your return business, and people may come to your country for a business event, but the legacy, the imprint you've left on their mind will ensure that they bring their families and they have return tourism basically that's coming back. I think virtual and augmented reality is becoming a big thing. So
yes.
gamification, data analytics, that's also huge. It's really understanding the data you're collecting. What can you do with it? It's not just
Yes.
about putting everything into this computer base, from people coming into your venue, understanding them, listening to them, to the type of food. I think if we take an example of the RISE conference, one of the things MyTech did was trying to understand that you have a South Indian community coming in to this event. How do we train our chefs to make sure they understand South Indian food, but how do we take it up a level to being more global, international level?
Like a
How do we bring
fusion.
in
How,
veg? vegetarian concepts into it, but making sure the fusion, you had Chinese, you've got European, you've
Yes.
got Indian. So it's making sure that your team feels the excitement about the client coming in, and how do we make sure that these sensory enhancements are done, and we don't just leave it that it's standard. So it's going above and beyond in what you do. The security levels, people need to be safe. They're
Yes.
traveling around the world. There's so much uneasiness going on. How do we make sure that whether it's facial recognition, cybersecurity, that we're touching on things on every level so that people understand they feel safe, but the experience is something that they will always come back for.
That's amazing. And I can personally vouch for the level of service that we got at the Rice event. The 3 days of food and all the smallest and smallest of details was taken into consideration, and it was meticulously planned. So I know the effort that you and your team put together for the Rice event. So I personally experienced it. So I should say that it was simply out of the world.
Thank you very much, Preetha. And I'm happy that you enjoyed your experience.
No, it was very good. So I have the next question is, you have a notable focus on sustainability and social entrepreneurship. How do you incorporate these values into your strategic planning and business development efforts?
Okay, so this is very interesting for us, and it's something that my take is it focuses on being a purposeful venue. For us, we believe in creating a positive impact for a sustainable future, and that's key for us. In that, in everything we do, it's small but purposeful steps that we're taking to integrate sustainability into the operations and our daily lives, encouraging our employees to be innovative in what they are doing. The RISE conference was just one of them in terms of entrepreneurship, but also SME development, making sure that we are able to support suppliers within a 5 kilometer radius. Whilst there are times you've got to use international delivery, but most of the time you're making sure that your local teams are being supported. How do we do women empowerment? That's key for us. 60% of our workforce at MyTech and the leadership are female. But that does not
Wow.
mean we pay any less attention to the male counterparts. It's just empowering women in which was once a male-dominated industry, to really come out, speak, be at the table, and make sure that their voices are heard. And at the same time, we're also believing in balance for better, because we want to make sure that the future is led by male and female, or whichever way we're looking at it, but it's a balance at the table with everyone being heard, but a very strong and assertive force that's coming forward. In terms of our sustainability efforts, we also believe in collaboration and partnership. We don't believe that we can do this on our own. So we very often will engage with our clients, the stakeholders around us, as well as partnering on events. We had the AgriTech event last year, and that was a community looking at how do they improve farming, and how does MyTech get involved with that? So for us was to go that extra mile and really get involved in it, from making sure we had vertical farming starting off at MyTech, making sure there was hydroponics for our herb gardens that supplied our coffee shop, into vegetarian cuisine. So we really made sure our staff were trained to understand vegetarian cuisine, because a lot of people have this mindset that it's really boring food. And it's super healthy. So for us was, how do we create the excitement about it, that people don't realize that vegetarian food is it's not boring, it's exciting, and it's how you prepare it, how you get excited about the process. We've also been involved in a project called Kind Malaysia, which gets various companies, corporates involved in CSR projects as well. So it's, whilst conferences are taking place, exhibitions are taking place, we're also looking at recycle efforts. How does the nail punch carpet that's on the floor get recycled? How do we all support each other in creating corporate gifts out of that, reselling it?
Wow, wonderful.
Events that take place, how do we make sure communities that are making everyday products, how do we help them sell these products? How do we help them market something like this? So it's no longer about just preparing gifts for your clients, but rather possibly giving your clients a voucher to buy and support products that are in-house.
Oh, that
So
is
those are some of
amazing.
the efforts being done to really go to the next level.
So I have to speak again about your leadership. That is simply amazing, like making sure that your workforce is balanced and making sure there's equal representation of women and men. Events which is happening to help you understand how important it is from a sustainability standpoint. That's simply amazing. You're just going through every facets of what needs to be done to ensure that the E and the S and the G is balanced there. So I'm just looking at
And I
from.
think it's important.
Yes, so I'm looking at the environmental, social, and the governance aspect, and you're doing it wonderful. So the next question I have, think globally, act locally, is a powerful message. How do you apply this principle in your work, especially in creating sustainable and impactful events?
I must tell you, this is something that resonates really, close to my heart. And it's something I picked up whilst at the airport in India, and it resonated with me. And I thought that's something I'm going to hold on because, when something resonates with you, you want to live by that,
Yes, yes.
the powerful message. Being a person who works on a global scale, how do I adapt to a local level of really understanding what is required? Considering global sustainability goals, implementing really practical local actions, making a tangible difference is what's really important. When I look at this message, and it reminds me of my daily job in what I'm doing, to identify like local sustainability challenges, what are the resources required, what are the regulations, and how do I take the next step to assist clients with this? How do we assist government by making sure we bring the right events so that government is able to establish their goals, local corporates are able to really establish and get into the right markets. And I think SME development is really important. And at MyTech, we really focus on that, making sure that our event organizers are supporting local suppliers. Our staff are doing, whether it's things like waste separation, making sure, do we do it at home? Do we do it at the office? Do we make sure this is part of our daily practice? On large events, you're encouraging major suppliers, for example, to use smaller subcontractors. So if we look at something like the World AIDS Conference or the UN COP17 conference, a lot of times due to experience, you would have a major supplier securing the bid to host certain services. So the only way I think we can hold accountability is making sure that when the larger suppliers win services, they should be held accountable to mentor and groom smaller suppliers under them so that
Wow.
the next event has already got groomed service providers. So it's not, the economy is growing, the profitability levels are growing, but it becomes a shared resource, a shared prosperity that's being encouraged. So I think it's venues, it's the city and the country that starts holding people accountable to do this.
Oh, wow. You're making sure that the next generation is also getting ready, or the next set of, upcoming organizations, which is willing, which wants to get a business like this, like a larger event, is getting groomed. And it's the responsibility of the much more experienced company who's been there, done that, making sure that they are the ones who are actually passing on the torch, or here passing on the baton, making sure that they're train and so the next time around when opportunities come, these organizations which have got trained are ready to actually take up the challenge. That's a beautiful way to do it. You're making sure that it doesn't become like a one-man show, or eventually it becomes like there's only one player in the industry to do it, and it becomes too
Yeah.
too challenging for others. So that is an amazing way to do it.
But I think there's so much work that needs to be
Oh
done,
yes,
on this. And I think it's companies around the world that need to be holding this accountability to make sure that we really have a shared resource and that the future is stable. That sustainability, a simple thing like when you're doing sustainability or ESG or even CSR, you're not just giving money or giving resources, but how do you make sure that when you give something, you're really making sure there's sustainability, that people can survive on their own, communities can survive on their own, but right down to suppliers, are able to make sure that the future is still held highly professional, highly skilled, and that you don't have to bring, for example, suppliers from overseas, that the local community is strong enough to be able to handle at a professional level.
That's amazing. And I think that's actually the right way to do also, right? To when you have, they say, right, with great power comes great responsibility. I know this is a famous quote from the movie Spider-Man, and I used to always quote this to my children growing up because I felt that will resonate with them easily because they're all crazy about Spider-Man. But it's got a profound meaning. When you have the power to influence, why not influence it in a positive way? To completely change the world around you, and also to make sure that the less fortunate people are given an opportunity to come up, and there's also another quote I read, like very few people in this world get an opportunity to go to the top, but it's their responsibility to always send the elevator down for the others to come up.
Absolutely.
That's so important, when once you reach the top, you should not forget the people who are still are out there, in the first floor waiting for a hand to bring them up. If we all start to do that, as part of sustainability means, of course the environment is so important, but the social aspect and governance is equally important. And you actually incorporating that into the business practices to ensure that the wealth is shared. Like you said, it's a shared prosperity for all. Simply amazing, but it's so much of hard work that takes meticulous planning and sticking to that every time, because you can always fall off the wagon, but you want to make sure.
Absolutely. And I think it's about perseverance. You've
Perseverance.
got to have that daily reminder that you serve with purpose. Because you're right, we
Exactly.
could very easily fall off, and life could be easy because you just give it out to the best and the job's
Yeah,
done.
but then
But
you're
how do you
conscious.
empower?
Yes, and you've consciously chosen to not to do that, and you want to make sure that you're making a difference in every single thing you do. Like you said, everything is with purpose. That's amazing. I'm just listening to you, and I'm just thinking through the whole conversation, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it is simply amazing what she's doing. So I'm
Oh,
really
as I
learning
said,
a
it's
lot.
it's it's working with great teams who also have the same purpose and excitement about what they do.
Yes. Oh, you are so blessed to have an amazing team who understands your vision and makes sure that they carrying on the torch in whatever you're doing, and they believe in it. That's the most important part.
Absolutely.
They have to believe in it. Only then they will be part of that journey that you are in. Unless they don't believe the purpose, they will not join you, which means
Yeah.
that they resonate with every single thing what you're trying to do.
But I think I always believe if you believe it and you can dream it, you can make it possible.
Absolutely, yes. So, the last question I have for you is, with over 3 decades of experience, what advice would you give to young professionals aspiring to make a mark in the MICE industry or any other field?
I would say this is the most exciting industry you can be in. And just remember, the hospitality industry is about customer service and building strong relationships. Always remember to seek feedback and have a circle of friends that you call mentors that you can call on. I think that's so important, is having mentors you can call on. You never know enough, and it's always good to bounce ideas off. Seek opportunities to work in various departments, various sectors, and gain diverse experience and create a Kaizen culture of continuous learning and improvement, because it's a lifelong journey of learning. The industry is fast paced and requires you to be resilient to survive. It requires a touch of grace and professionalism. And to maintain the human brand, don't forget to prioritize your work life balance. Your physical and your mental well being is super important. So put yourself first, but remember, you have a purpose to serve the world.
Oh my God, that is amazing. What a way to finish this beautiful, beautiful interview with you, Mala. As we wrap up today's enriching conversation, I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to Mala Doreswamy for joining us on Planet Forward with Preetha. Conversations for a Greener Future. Mala, your insights and stories have not only illuminated the complex world of the mice industry, but have also inspired me with your dedication to excellence, mentorship, and sustainable practices. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in. I hope today's episode has motivated you to think about how you too can integrate passion and professionalism in your pursuits, just as Mala has, whether it's fostering team spirit, striving for excellence, or being the change you wish to see. Remember that every step you take contributes to a larger impact. Please don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform to stay updated with more conversations that inspire and inform. We are here to help you move the planet forward one story at a time. Mala, any final thoughts or words of wisdom you'd like to share with our audience?
Just thank you for the opportunity, Preetha. This has been an amazing opportunity. And to everyone out there, just remember, you are the change, and it takes one step, one person at a time. And my final one, always remember Ubuntu. You are because of those who've come before you and those around you. So always remember that. Namaste, Salamat Datang from Malaysia, and all the best.
Thank you so much, Mala. Thank you once again for your time and the wisdom you've shared. And to everyone listening, until next time, keep striving for excellence and pushing the boundaries of what you can achieve. Goodbye and take care.
Thank you for tuning in to The Planet Forward with Preetha, Conversations for a Greener Future. Together, we're exploring the innovations and stories that inspire us to think and act for a sustainable world. If you're inspired by today's conversation and want to be part of this journey toward a greener future, make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. By subscribing, you'll never miss an episode filled with groundbreaking ideas and actionable solutions. Let's continue to make a difference, one episode at a time. I'm Preetha, reminding you to make every day count for our planet. Until next time, keep moving the planet forward.